Thank you for joining us yet again on the news desk on QTV. The headlines. The opposition UPND has maintained that it will not support Bill number 10 when it comes up for second reading in Parliament. Inspector General of Police Kakoma Kanganja has revoked the firearm license for PF Kada Chano Dangwira following an incident at a lodge in Siavonga where he fired several shots. Opposition Green Party President Peter Sinkamba has called on government to abandon the tabling of Bill 10. Here now is the news in detail. The United Party for National Development, UPND, has maintained that it will not support the Constitutional Amendment Bill number 10 of 2019 when it's tabled in Parliament, and the bill will come up for second reading. Speaking during a media briefing, Leader of the Opposition in Parliament and Monza Central Member of Parliament, Jack Mwimbu, says the UPND will not support the bill. Mr. Mwimbu says the constitutional amendment process is not for PF alone, but for all Zambians, hence the need to involve them. He says the party expects all loyal party members of Parliament to vote against Bill 10 and that those who will vote for the bill will be considered not to be with the party and against the Zambian people.
What I said is that in parliamentary democracy, in Parliament, if you want your members to support your position, you issue what you call a three-line whip. A three-line whip entails that all members of that particular party will have to support the position of the political party. We are aware that PF also have raised the three-line whip. They expect that all their members support the position of the party. And I'm saying through the three-line whip which we have raised, we expect any UPND member to support the position of the UPND. If they don't support the position of the UPND, then they don't support our cause. So and if they don't support the cause, they are independent in their minds. We will know. In Parliament, there is no secret ballot. Any vote that is conducted on the floor of the House is recorded. And there will be the list of the names, and members of the public, the constituencies, will know who have voted against and who have not voted for the provision. It will be known.
Speaking at the same briefing, UPND Luampa Member of Parliament Chikota Mazoko, who was representing members of Parliament from Western Province, has appealed to traditional leaders in the province not to be deceived that Bill number 10 has anything to do with their traditional power.
We are not going to support this Bill 10. Not that we are trying to be disrespectful to our leaders in Western Province, but we want to present the views of the people who have elected us. Moreover, we want our traditional leaders in Western Province to know that we came in Parliament on the ticket of UPND as politicians. And as members of Parliament from UPND, we toe the line of the party position, as well as representing the views of the people. Having done a lot of consultation over this Bill 10, our people have told us they don't see any importance of rushing into supporting this Bill 10. Hence, as members of Parliament in Western Province, we have stood on the ground that we are not going to support this Bill 10.
A consortium of civil society organizations has warned that it will decampaign members of Parliament who will vote in favor of Bill number 10 should it pass the second reading stage. The consortium, comprising among others Action Aid Zambia, Chapter 1 Foundation, Voice of Democracy, CTPD, Caritas Zambia, say they will go flat out to decampaign the members of Parliament who will support its passage ahead of the 2021 elections. Speaking at a joint media briefing, Action Aid Zambia Executive Director Nalucha Ziba has accused Cabinet of changing its positions on some controversial provisions in the bill. Mrs. Ziba says there is a danger that Parliament could adopt the entire content of the bill or include harmful clauses. We have more in the following report.
It is a bill that has raised a lot of debates among stakeholders in the country. Many have described the content of Constitution Amendment Bill number 10 of 2019 as destructive. Some stakeholders have insisted that government should withdraw Bill number 10 of 2019, alleging that it threatens the country's democracy. However, despite public outcry, Bill number 10 that was suspended in the last parliamentary sitting will be presented for the second reading on Tuesday, 17th March 2020. The ruling Patriotic Front, opposition parties, the church, communities and civil society organizations will be following the proceedings with keen interest. Some civil society organizations who gathered at Kapingila House warned members of parliament against supporting Bill number 10 when it is tabled for the second reading in parliament.
We therefore reiterate our call for the entire Bill 10 to be withdrawn immediately for consensus building on the way forward. In the event that Bill 10 is not withdrawn, we call each and every member of parliament to do their civic duty, to uphold and protect the Constitution, to protect Zambia's valid democracy and reject Bill 10 completely.
We still have a lot of support from the MPs, and I had also a chat with the MMD, and they assured us that some of the MPs, they are not in support of this bill.
If at all the parliament allows and opens up debate to begin to change each article, it means all the agreements that will be made article by article will be done by a simple majority.
Brebna Changala accused Justice Minister Given Lubinda of playing double standards, while William Harrington has wondered how the cabinet approved the bill without first producing the white paper.
The question is, how do we deal with him? Because I'm told he's not going to stand. He will have done the damage and run away.
I wonder whether you would agree with me as civil society that in fact Mr. Honorable Given Lubinda has misled the public on this particular issue of non-production of a white paper.
For Chapter 1 Foundation Director Linda Kasonde, it is unconstitutional for the government to cause the constitution to be enacted without first being approved by the Zambian people.
And as I mentioned earlier, if that was not done, as the minister says it didn't happen, then that is a breach of the constitution. It's unconstitutional for the cabinet not to consider and approve bills before they go to parliament.
Mutalina Mango, the UPND national chairperson, has assured the nation that UPND members of parliament will not support Bill number 10 of 2019.
So they will use a method, we are trusting them, we are looking to them, because they have not only heard us as a party, they have heard you, the Zambian people, that we don't want Bill 10. It is a danger to our democracy, it's a danger to our well-being.
Zitukule Consortium Executive Director Nicholas Piri is warning that civil society organizations will go out to the people and decampaign the ruling Patriotic Front and all those members of parliament that will support the bill.
And the noble thing they can do is withdraw the bill, factor in all the amendments and bring a born-again bill. Then maybe we can start a discussion. Anything short of that, Bill 10 must fall, and we'll do everything possible to make sure Bill 10 falls. If Bill 10 doesn't fall, the sponsors must fall.
Will the Constitution Amendment Bill 2019, also known as Bill number 10, pass second reading this Tuesday? Favorite Kalando, QTV News in Lusaka.
A consortium of civil society organizations has urged all members of parliament not to walk out when the Constitution Bill number 10 is taken to parliament for second reading. Addressing a media briefing on behalf of 7 CSOs, namely SACOD, Zambia Institute of Governance and Civil Liberties Advocacy Platform, ISA Zambia, YALI, Common Grounds Network and CRECO. SACOD Executive Director Boniface Chembe has implored members of parliament to recognize that they are legitimate representatives of the 17 million Zambians when it comes to altering the constitution. Mr. Chembe says well-intended members of parliament should consider giving the bill a chance to see the light of the day, as well as fully support the positive clauses such as the mixed member proportional representation system whose details will be spelled out in the new Electoral System Act. He has emphasized that the bill which members of parliament will be debating is not for the PF, UPND or the civil society, but the people of Zambia.
We have every reason to call upon our members of parliament to now discharge their duty to make laws, which includes the constitution. We believe well-intentioned members of parliament will give us this bill a chance to see if the bill can be amended at the committee of the whole house stage, but we will also fully support these positive clauses such as mixed member proportional representation system, whose details will be spelled out in the new Electoral Systems Act. Organizations, we therefore call on all our members of parliament to recognize that and only them are legitimate representatives of the 17 million Zambians when it comes to altering our constitution. Our MPs must discharge this onerous but noble duty by participating in debating Bill 10 and cleaning it up to represent the views of the people who elected them to come make laws from our parliament. The constitution which members of parliament will be debating is not for the ruling Patriotic Front, nor is it for the opposition United Party for National Development. It is not for those who took time to make submissions to the Ministry of Justice or those who crafted it at the National Dialogue Forum, NDF, and the Constitution is not for us, civil society leaders who spoke the loudest or lowest on radios and TVs over the last 3 years. The Constitution is for that old lady in Mugudubu.
Some concerned Lusaka residents have appealed to the government to consider temporarily closing the country's borders to avoid the spread of the coronavirus to Zambia. They have told Q News that this is the best time to take such strict measures when the country has not recorded any case of the deadly virus in order to protect the lives of the people. They state that if this is not possible, there is need to ensure enhanced monitoring at all entry points and ensuring that people entering the country are screened for the virus. The residents have also noted the need for massive sensitization on the preventive measures for COVID-19, as currently only a few people have such knowledge. More in this report.
The ongoing coronavirus 2019, also known as COVID-19 outbreak, which was declared a global public health emergency by the World Health Organization, has left many countries affected. Within Africa, 156 cases, including 3 deaths, have been reported in 15 countries from all sub-regions. But Zambia has so far not recorded any case of COVID-19. This is because the Zambian government is equally on high alert and has put in place measures to ensure that COVID-19 does not penetrate the Zambian borders. But what does the ordinary Zambian citizen know about the preventive measures for the disease?
So what I can do to prevent myself is by washing my hands with soap or any alcoholic ingredient, and then also just try to prevent from massive gathering, because the more I'm getting exposed from massive gathering, since this is not anymore a joke, it's a serious disease that has affecting us. I can just urge the government to monitor, especially the borders, where they can monitor the borders and make sure that everyone who is coming inside our country is being tested.
It's not very deadly. Okay, people are dying, but all you have to do is keep yourself clean and protect your family, protect yourself, stay indoors, and stay clean.
Choka kutorieti fungo samba kumanja sopo. Then when you are coughing, you have to close your mouth. Then kulipoposhana vija pafupi so.
Meanwhile, United Party for National Development Monze Central Member of Parliament Jack Mwimbu feels the preventive measures that have been put in place are not adequate.
Countries like Europe now, they have put measures not to allow certain things to go out because they will have these issues of the traces of the coronavirus. So they have put measures. And when those measures have been put in place, it therefore follows that other countries will suffer. And already, despite this mismanagement in this country, the watch has fallen.
The Zambia National Public Health Institute has been conducting surveillance, and to date, 28 alerts involving individuals who traveled from areas with confirmed COVID-19 cases have been investigated. Health Minister Dr. Stanley Chilufya, during a media briefing, had announced that it is now mandatory requirement to have the provision of adequate and accessible facilities for hand hygiene at all public places. Martha Katambi, QTV News, Lusaka.
Center for Trade Policy and Development Executive Director Isaac Mwaipopo has accused government of being reluctant in taking more aggressive measures in response to the outbreak of coronavirus. Mr. Mwaipopo has questioned why government is reluctant to close up borders for countries which are at high risk. He has told QTV News that the center is also worried as to why government is delaying in suspending some of the flights that may be coming directly from countries which are hard hit by the outbreak of COVID-19. Mr. Mwaipopo is worried that the reluctance by government might put the country in serious trouble, especially that the health system in Zambia cannot manage to deal with the outbreak of COVID-19. He says government should know that COVID-19 has been declared as a global pandemic which should be treated with the seriousness it deserves as it is affecting the global economy. Meanwhile, Mr. Mwaipopo has also called for more sensitization programs on the COVID-19, especially with regards to people in rural areas.
In terms of the measures that the government has undertaken, we do commend the Ministry of Health for some of the measures that they have taken. We take note on some of them, which includes screening at our international airport, some engagement meetings and all, but we think that the measures are not adequate this far. There is need for more sensitization. A lot of people are living in fear, not knowing in terms of how they can protect themselves, except a few that have got access to platforms like Facebook, television. But for those that are in far-flung places, they might have a challenge in terms of relying or accessing reliable data. We are also very concerned that we've remained relaxed in terms of taking up other more aggressive measures, such as closing up the border posts for countries which are at high risk, as well as suspending some of the flights that might be coming directly from countries which are hit hard by the outbreak of the disease. We think that this relaxation might put our country in serious trouble, especially that our health system is not one that can manage to contain or deal with this challenge in an event that it breaks out in our country. In terms of
The Tukule Consortium has stressed the need for governments to take up other practical measures, which include suspending flights from countries that have recorded an outbreak of the coronavirus, which includes neighboring South Africa as a means of preventing an outbreak of the pandemic in the country. Organization Executive Director Nicholas Piri has questioned how special Zambia is and if the country has enough medical equipment to fight the outbreak, not to take practical measures, as other African countries have done. Mr. Piri states that in as much as it may seem secretive or inimical to human rights and tantamount to xenophobic practices, Zambia will lose more and pay heavily should the pandemic break out than it will lose by suspending flights and putting restrictions at all entry points across the country. Mr. Piri, who has however commended government for increasing surveillance at all entry points and for setting aside a 50 million kwacha contingency funds to use in an event of an outbreak, has stressed the need for proper practical preventive steps to be taken.
We'd also like to call upon government to do a little bit more, take a bit more practical steps to prevent the outbreak of corona. And I think we can take leaf from other countries such as the United States and indeed other countries that have taken measures, including the suspension of certain movements from the points of infection to the jurisdictions like Zambia that has not yet recorded this case. For example, as we stand now, we still have open flights from China, from the United States, and from other countries that have recorded coronavirus. I don't think that's the best way we could respond in terms of prevention. And of course, I know there's the issue of whether such a move would be segregative or would be inimical to human rights. But we want to say that the right to life carries prime significance to the exclusivity of any other right. So in order to preserve the life of Zambians, there's completely nothing wrong in you suspending travels from certain jurisdictions temporarily just to allow for the situation to calm down, but also taking into cognizance that our health system is not as strong. So if you allow the outbreak to start in the country, then we may pay more heavily than if we took proactive means such as preventing the inflow of flights from other countries. So I think over and above all the other remedies that we have taken so far, we'd like to call upon government to consider taking other practical measures to ensure that we don't record any outbreak of coronavirus in the country.
Police in Lusaka have charged and arrested PF Lusaka Province Youth Chairperson Daniel Kalembe for 2 counts of assault occasioning actual bodily harm. And Inspector General of Police Kakoma Kanganja has revoked a firearm license for Flaxon Chanoda Anguira in connection with the unlawful discharge of a firearm at a lodge in Siavonga recently. Police spokesperson Esther Katongo says Kalembe, aged 41, of Kanyama Site and Service, has been arrested in connection with the 9 assault cases reported on the 12th of March 2020 at 11 hours at the Freedom Statue in Lusaka. Mrs. Katongo says the accused has been released on police bond and will appear in court soon, while investigations to have others involved in the same matter arrested have continued. Meanwhile, police have also arrested 3 suspects who have been charged and arrested for 3 counts of assault and 1 count of threatening violence. Mrs. Katongo has named the suspects as Cliff Wadia, aged 45 years, of Chaisa Compound, John Mwango Kamweo, aged 22 years, of Mandevu Compound, and Martin Katazo, aged 33 years, of Mandevu Compound. She explains that this is in connection with the reported assault which occurred on the 15th of March 2020 at 09 hours at Olympic Africa Academy in Chipata Compound during the Patriotic Front in 10 ward elections in Mandevu constituency. She says the trial has been released on police bond and will appear in court soon. Meanwhile, Patriotic Front National Youth Chairperson Kelvin Sampa has warned PF cadres engaging in intra-party violence that they will not get it or get away with it. Mr. Sampa says his office will not entertain any youth engaging in criminal activities and think they will get away with it because they belong to the ruling party. He has told Q News that all PF cadres that exhibited violent behavior on Youth Day in the presence of party and Republican President Edgar Lungu will therefore be dealt with. Mr. Sampa says all youths that love the party are expected to behave responsibly.
I would love to send a sound warning to all PF youths, particularly those that are fond of getting themselves engaged in political violence within the political party, that my office shall not entertain any youths that think that they shall be covered by the law because they belong to the Patriotic Front Party. This is a timely warning, and I'm saying to all the youths that belong to PF, if you love the party, it's high time you behaved yourselves and behaved in a very responsible manner. Because what transpired during the Youth Day celebration in the presence of His Excellency the President was uncalled for. All those youths that were involved in that type of act shall be dealt with. And I'm sending this as a sounding warning as National Youth Chairperson of the party. And if you think you're above the law, whoever is involved in these type of activities, we shall face each other with the courts of law.
Civil rights activist Brenda Changala has charged that the Zambian judiciary has become misguided and disrespectful. Mr. Changala is disturbed that the judiciary has now become an institution that can mete out punishment on an individual over a complaint without first hearing them. In an interview with QTV News, Mr. Changala says, as opposed to barring constitutional lawyer John Sangwa from appearing before any court for questioning the qualification of constitutional court judges, the judiciary should have countered his assertions. He has noted that the Constitutional Court has, from since inception, been channeling very controversial judgments which are ambiguous.
And brave men and women, especially intellectuals like John Sangwa, rises on a point of law that we are dealing with constitutional judges who are not qualified because they didn't meet constitutional requirements. How do you then bar them, other than interrogating the issue that is raising? How do you then chase him from all courts in the country and make him a pariah? But I want to say one thing. John Sangwa is now the defender of the rule of law, and the judiciary are the lawbreakers. The executive is a bunch of vandals, lawbreakers. They have broken the law, they continue to break the law. They are now pushing us towards Bill 10, a document that is not necessary for anybody else. At the moment, we need somebody to attend to our economy. We need somebody to attend to the coronavirus, not to suspension of John Sangwa. In fact, they need John Sangwa more this time than to chase him away from this debate.
Opposition Green Party President Peter Sinkamba has called on government to abandon the tabling of Bill 10 in Parliament for the second reading. Mr. Sinkamba says there is no clause or article which is so imperative that the bill must be enacted at all costs. Mr. Sinkamba has told QTV News that the Bill 10 is not adding any value to Zambians, but is simply dividing the nation. He says there will be a lot of credibility if government heed to cause to abandon the bill.
There is no clause or article in that Bill 10 which is so imperative that we need to enact it at all costs, even at the cost of national unity. So we think that it should just be abandoned, and if government is desirous of enacting a constitution, we think that enacting the 2014 draft, final draft, which has got an enhanced Bill of Rights and the other progressive provisions, we think that is the best time that government can present a bill to the House, which is going to be progressive and add value to the nation. Otherwise, Bill 10 does not add any value to the nation. It's only dividing us, and there would not be any improvement in the management of the country, even if it was enacted. In fact, we stand to lose as a nation democratically if it is going to be entertained. So our appeal to government is that instead of presenting it tomorrow, they can just abandon it, and there will be a lot of credibility on the part of government if they were to heed to our passionate appeal to abandon the process.
And Mr. Sinkamba has described as unfortunate the decision by the judiciary to bar constitutional lawyer John Sangwa from appearing before any court.
So this is statement which we hear has been circulating, directing judges not to entertain. I think that is interference with the independence of the judiciary. And these are key tenets in our administration of the country. So we think that the best John Sangwa should do is to appear before individual judges. And if a judge will be aggrieved by his attendance, then let that judge or that magistrate chase John Sangwa. Then we will know whether the Zambian judiciary is independent or not. Otherwise, for now, all we can say is it is speculation, because he has not been chased by any judge or any magistrate. And I think it's important that John Sangwa goes to court and let him be chased, on account that there's a High Court judge who, or High Court registrar who issued an instruction that should not be entertained by any court.
Meanwhile, Zambian DNA Spoki Mulema has urged all members of parliament to support the constitutional bill number 10 when it is presented to Parliament for second reading. Forum for Democracy and Development, FDD, has commended government for its resolve to make amendments to the Constitution Amendment Bill number 10 of 2019, following concerns raised by members of Parliament or members of the general public and several stakeholders. FDD party spokesperson Yotam Teachalo says the move government has taken is positive and in the right direction and should be commended by well-meaning Zambians. Mr. Mteachalo notes that some of the concerns raised by some stakeholders have been addressed by government. He says those who initially opposed the Bill 10 due to contentious clauses should therefore reciprocate the good gesture which has been demonstrated by government. Mr. Mtachalo has since appealed to members of parliament from both the ruling and opposition parties, including independent members of parliament, to support the bill when it comes up for second reading.
Forum for Democracy and Development, FDD, would like to commend the move taken by the government in its resolve to make necessary amendments to the Constitution Amendment Bill 10 of 2019 following concerns which were raised by members of the general public and several stakeholders. We feel that the move the government has taken is positive and in the right direction and should be commended by all well-meaning Zambians, because some stakeholders' concerns have been addressed by the government's resolve to make necessary amendments to the bill in the spirit of give and take, which is the hallmark of democracy. Further, the FDD is also delighted that President Lungu's government has not produced a white paper by scrutinizing the proposed constitutional amendment as recommended by the National Dialogue Forum, NDF, as was the case in the past, where respective governments used to come up with cabinet white papers supporting and rejecting some of the recommendations which undermined the will of the people of Zambia in the constitution-making process.
A concerned citizen has called on the Constitutional Court to clarify its ruling where it declared President Lungu eligible to contest the 2021 presidential election, which has divided the nation. In 2018, the Constitutional Court ruled that President Lungu did not serve a full term between 2015 and 2016, a move that makes him eligible to contest the 2021 polls. But Joe Kamutuma has noted with concern that the Constitutional Court's ruling has torn apart lawyers in the country. Mr. Kamutuma says President Edgar Lungu's eligibility issue has also divided Zambians as a situation which should be addressed soon. He has also advised some stakeholders who have expressed concern about President Edgar Lungu's eligibility to seek the Constitutional Court's interpretation on whether the contest or whether is eligible to contest the 2021 presidential election. Mr. Kamutuma has told QTV News that the issue of eligibility should be addressed now before the next election.
In any case, if this is not well handled, we risk having civil strife in Zambia. This issue of playing to the gallery, you know, when we say that the constitution is limping, this is exactly what we mean. You can't start fighting at the point of fighting and then you start questioning the eligibility of people. When you have all this time, why are we not, who is stopping anybody from going to court now? And this is what I'm saying. I am saying, can we move court now? Whether you're in the opposition, if you really feel you're debating this matter, the fact that you are debating it means that you are concerned. And this is why I'm saying let's not wait until it is in those periods when the period is too short, people would have been charged politically, and then you want to bring in the issue, the question of eligibility. Let's know those things now. And this is why I'm saluting, people like the Dan Pules. How I wished, I prayed that another group again can go to court, regardless of where they come from. Let them go to court and get clarification that has been, from the judgment that has come out. Because now we have two schools of views on the same judgment. Sangwa, the lawyer counsel Sangwa, senior counsel Sangwa is saying this, and then you have Makebi Zulu is saying these are both lawyers. So lawyers are telling us, what is the judgment saying and what is the court saying? So in the provisions of the judgment that is causing confusion, let those provisions be highlighted and taken back to court for more clarity. You cannot say you wait until that time. No, you are playing in the hands of fire. There can be civil strife in Zambia. We don't want that. Look at just over the gassing issues, how people took the law into their own hands. We can't risk this anymore. Prevention is better than cure. That's all I can say.
Cleaning Association of Zambia President Lawrence Makumbi has urged all cleaning companies in Zambia to step up mass production of hand sanitizers and hand wash and the importation of coronavirus test kits. And Mr. Makumbi has asked governments to procure the corona test kits. Anti-outbreak control chemicals which can be used to spray all public places, face masks, industrial sprayers and all sanitizers in bulk. He has explained that some of these products are already in Zambia, hence the need to ensure that the 1,000 million, hence the need to ensure that the 100 million kwacha set aside for procurement of coronavirus remedies is paid to Zambians for all supplies and services. Mr. Makumbi has further asked all Zambians to take advice on hygienic behavior seriously by always washing their hands with soap and avoid handshakes and crowded places.
Do we have facilities for quarantine? Obviously, the answer is not positive. This matter is very serious, and we must learn from what is happening in Italy and Spain today. A late reaction will cause extreme costs to lives and also a lot of money if we allow any breakout of coronavirus in this country. We must ensure we do not let an outbreak come in this country by containing anyone coming from any risk country. On the other hand, all cleaning companies in Zambia have been urged to step up mass production of hand sanitizer and hand wash. We have also told them to increase on the importation of coronavirus kits. Hence, we take this opportunity to ask government to procure the corona test kits, anti-breakout control chemicals, which we use to spray all public areas, face masks, industrial sprayers, and all sanitizers in bulk from Zambian companies. We wish to emphasize to the Minister of Health, Dr. Chitalo Chilufya, and President Edgar Lungu, that some of these products are already in the country. Hence, we must ensure that the 100 million kwacha set aside for procurement of the coronavirus remedies to be paid to Zambians for all supplies of services and also all kits and the chemicals that are already in the country. We also ask that Zambians take advantage of hygienic behavior seriously. Always wash your hands with hand soap and also use sanitizer, and at all costs avoid handshakes and being in crowded places.
As we end the news, here's a recap of stories in the headlines. The opposition UPND has maintained that it will not support Bill number 10 when it comes up for second reading in Parliament. Inspector General of Police Kakoma Kanganja has revoked the firearm license for PF Kada Chino Dangwira following an incident at a lodge in Siavonga, where he fired several shots. An opposition Green Party President Peter Sinkamba has called on government to abandon the tabling of Bill number 10. That's the news. Thank you so much for watching. Bye-bye. God bless.